All right. Doing some buzz, starting off as usual, some rope hammer curls, a bunch of reps. You see, stretching out the biceps after a few reps. The stretch is very important. First few sets, I'll do, honestly, I don't even know if I really count, but I do a bunch of reps just to warm up, get the blood in the muscle. Biceps are one of those very easy muscles to do. It's a small muscle. It's easy to kill it. Doesn't take much. If you're doing good sets and you have good contractions, you're not taking terribly long breaks, you can honestly do 9 to 12 sets and probably get a decent bicep workout. I don't do that. I always do at least probably 12 sets. But like I said, small muscle group, you don't need a lot of weight. Most people have good mind muscle connection with the biceps. It's that muscle that probably the first bodybuilding pose a person ever does is flexes their bicep. So it's an easy muscle group to train. Doesn't wipe you out. You can do it quickly, and it's rewarding. Not as rewarding as actually, doing a larger muscle group, but it it looks good to have pumped up arms. I was considering doing barbell curls this time, but just went with the easy bar again. One of my, I feel like certain fundamentals when it comes to biceps, for the most part, I would always do at least one form of barbell curl, a form of dumbbell curl, a preacher curl, and a concentration curl. Those are like always like four staples, but over time, there's a lot of variations when it comes to biceps. Lots of different machines. At the end of the day, once again, the things that work best for you. I always was a fan of the preacher curl because it forces you, like it's what I always talk about, stretching the muscle out. If you could, when you rest your triceps on top of a preacher curl, you could really lengthen the bicep head by stretching out, almost trying to like hyperextend, you know, your arm. But within reason, comfortably. But there's always a fan of preacher curls. Right here, just simple. With dumbbell curls like this, I try keep hands forward the whole time. I don't rotate my wrist. I keep the bicep in that position purposely. I believe you want to hit one specific range of motion, then another range of motion. So it's I do hammer curls when I'm trying to get the longer head of the bicep, and you know pronated type curls when I'm doing the shorter head. I don't. I'm not a fan of rotating my wrist in the middle of a curl. I know a lot of people do it. Um, I'd rather try to minimize the wrist motion during curls. Try and keep it locked in a straight line with my forearms. Nothing crazy. Yeah, I'm doing some more easy bar cable curls. I think these are great. Cables are fantastic, and especially with biceps, you don't have to deal with gravity working with you. The weight isn't a straight up and down motion, so you have that constant tension which cables provide. And because you don't have to go heavy with biceps, it's just easy to jump around, do different exercises. Not that I recommend doing that. And here we go. This is my version of this. Is how I've always done concentration curls. A lot of people rest their elbow on their thigh. I actually started doing this many, many years ago, over 20 years ago, and it was taught to me by this personal trainer I knew who had probably like the biggest biceps at that point in my life I've ever seen. Pretty much anybody else who lived in the neighborhood. This is before the internet, so um, everybody knew he had really big biceps, and he showed me concentration curls without using without sitting. So that's how I've always done them now. Every once in a while, yeah, I might throw, a traditional concentration curl, but this is the way I do them. And they work. It definitely doesn't hurt. Great for building that mind muscle connection. I really believe the most significant jump I've had, well, this applies probably to most muscle groups, but specifically, I remember in my biceps was when I really started just focusing on contraction and feeling and, going away from lifting as much weight as I could. And I honestly, I don't think there's anything wrong with, especially when you're younger, teenage years, early 20s, you know, your body's a little bit more robust. The likelihood of injury is not as bad. So I lifted pretty heavy in my well, I've always tried to lift as heavy as I could, but I really had no physical limitations whatsoever in, teen 20s. And, you know, biceps got a pretty good pump. Gotta see what they look like. And yeah, finishing off with some wrist curls, some wrist work. I say this is for me. I have issues with I have a big plate in one of my uh, forearms, like with 6 screws in it, and I completely destroyed my right arm. You can probably see a scar on it. So I have some issues, and I try my best to minimize pain by strengthening the muscles in the areas. If you want to deal with things that bother you, train the surrounding muscle groups. When a muscle is trained, it performs better. Everything around it works better and everything feels better. It's a lifetime commitment, but quality of life is increased. I'm just doing, you could tell I'm not really going very heavy. This is not me trying to build tremendous forearms. This is me training my wrists, keeping them strong. I probably will start going heavier in the next few bicep training sessions, but right now it's just trying to, keep my wrist healthy, make sure they're well lubricated. I personally, uh, very aware of when a muscle stops being trained for a while, the difference in how it feels. I never quite hit the 20-inch mark. It was like 19 and a half. Now I'm closer to 19. I've, oh, yeah, I had to leave that in. I thought that was pretty funny.